We've got an awesome show for you today, so let's get started.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15. Hell yes, your AK-47. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Oh, hell no!
Hell yes, we're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel, to Studio B, where we're going to get into it. This is a very, very, very serious satirical discussion, right? You may not find a whole lot of freaking humor in it, but this is, well, my take on it. We know that the World Economic Forum had a meeting the other day, a couple weeks ago, in fact, and Henry Kissinger said, hey, look, it's time to end this Ukraine business before we make too serious of an enemy out of Russia. Well, there was a lot of, shall we say, objection. Yeah, objection. There's a lot of objection to the fossil Kissinger, who's 98 years old, who's probably, his intelligence got the better part of him, and he wasn't well received. Well, whether or not he was well received, Russia was still winning in eastern Ukraine. And since that speech, Russia has defeated Ukraine in what was formerly eastern Ukraine. Well, the G7 just met, and they made a lot of decisions. And one of them was Cerveza bug. It was not on the G7 agenda, but you know what was? Russia, Russia, Russia. It would seem to me that Russia was expected to cave, that it was expected to fail. But the G7, which is made up of the leaders of the 7 most powerful countries, minus Russia, minus China, right? Basically, it's the West versus the East. And this is their focus, is they really wanted to take Russia. It shows me, and it hopefully demonstrates to you, that the World Economic Forum, the powers that be, the Illuminati, the Bilderberg Group, the Davos douches, the banking cartels are not all powerful. And they can't win everything they want just because they want it. So here we are. Here we are. What does this all mean? Where are they going with it? Well, we've surmised that if they couldn't take Russia through intimidation and whatever other tactics they use, that they would initiate a new Cold War. Or will it be World War III? See, a lot of people believed in my childhood that we would go from the Cold War into World War III. And then the Soviet Union collapsed, but Russia did not give up its sovereignty nor its banking system to the West. And all this time, the Western Alliance, through the banking cartels and the power structures, have been wanting to bring Russia into the fold, if you will, and they haven't done it. And so they're very angry. And they played this game in Ukraine starting in 2014. And then they wanted to move NATO in, and they wanted to move in the military, and they wanted to move in nuclear weapons onto the border of Russia. And this, along with other atrocities, is what prompted Russia to, well, help free the eastern republics of Ukraine. Right? They use that as the impetus, the reasoning, right, for being in the country, at the behest of these republics who wanted to break away from the rest of Ukraine. Now, whether you believe that or not is immaterial. Whether I believe that or not is immaterial, and I don't necessarily believe it. I don't take it at face value. I look at it for what it is. Right? Russia used that as an excuse. That's the excuse they wanted, and that's the excuse they used. It is, for all practical purposes, what happened. Now, what is happening as a result of this decision by the World Economic Forum to choose a Cold War status with Russia. We're here, right? Now, Putin is very pissed off. And the Pentagon, folks, the US Pentagon has gone after and said Putin's cavalier nuclear threat is not good, right? The Pentagon yesterday reacted to Putin's announcement on Saturday that Russia will be transferring nuclear-capable long-range missiles to Belarus. And they said that's irresponsible and that's cavalier, right? Because it's nuclear saber rattling. So why is this a problem for the Pentagon and for NATO when they themselves were telling Russia, hey, we want to move NATO against our former agreement to not expand, even though they went back on that 14 or 13 times, with, wanting to expand NATO into Ukraine. And so now, Russia is going to expand its reach into Belarus, right? The U.S. Pentagon, right, is taking issue with Putin, basically leaving over his nuclear transfer option because these missiles, these rockets, this ordnance is not necessarily nuclear, but it can be made nuclear, right? Now, alongside President Lukashenko of Belarus, Putin, right, met and went into a press conference in St. Petersburg. And here's the quote: "In the coming months, we will transfer to Belarus Iskander-M tactical missile systems, which can use ballistic or cruise missiles in their conventional and nuclear versions." Right? And this apparently scared the literal piss out of the Pentagon, right? Reuters wrote, quote, "Russia will supply Belarus with Iskander-M missile systems." Russian President Vladimir Putin told a televised meeting with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko on Saturday, delivery will take place within a few months, right? And so the Pentagon is taking this as a veiled nuclear threat, according to the U.S. Well, I don't think it's all that veiled. I think it's pretty much out there in the open, right? I think it's way out there in the open. Now, Iskander missile systems operate on a mobile system. It has a range of up to 300 miles. So it's not long range, but it's not a short range missile. And it can handle both a conventional and a nuclear warhead or delivery package. So Russia is saying, no, we're not going to play with you guys. We're very serious. Now, in the past, the United States government and the Russian government came to nuclear disarmament, nuclear scale down talks, right? Even after the Soviet Union fell, all these nuclear weapons still existed. They turned a lot of them into nuclear energy fuel by blending down the weapons grade uranium into fuel grade uranium. But over the years, this is, it's basically gone down. But since 2014, things flattened. Trump held them down pretty good, but with Biden, it's going right back up into a Cold War style standoff. And folks, this is really crazy. Russia is 100% not playing games. They aren't. Medvedev, folks, Dmitry Medvedev, who is currently serving the position of deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council. He warned NATO that encroaching on Crimea, the peninsula that is Russian territory, part of the Russian Federation, he warned that any encroachment there could spark World War III. He says, quote, "For us, Crimea is part of Russia, and that means forever. Any attempt to encroach is a declaration of war against our country. And if this is done by a NATO member state, this means conflict with the entire North Atlantic Alliance, a World War III, a complete catastrophe." So if NATO, the United States, the United Kingdom France, Germany, Poland, or anyone else wants to play games, this NATO alliance now, right, is, well, if any one of you screw up, all of you are going to get screwed up. This is not a de-escalation. This is an escalation. And this will likely, folks, include, right, trade embargoes, trade restrictions, trade cutoff with Russia. And Russia has not said we're going to cut off your natural gas, your oil, your coal, your uranium to the world. They have not said that they're going to do that 100%. They're giving Germany a little extra punishment, probably for lying to them, because about a year ago, they were like all for Russia. And when the conflict in Ukraine was started, Germany didn't pull its banks out of Russia. They were hoping for a more amicable settlement, but it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. One second. Okay, so where are we at here? You want to screw with the bear, right? You're going to get bit. They keep poking the bear, folks. They keep poking the bear, right? Additionally, Lukashenko, right, wrote, quote, "Very soon, that is precisely by this summer, the world will become even safer. If Sweden and Finland join NATO, the length of the alliance's land border with Russia will more than double." Oh, that was from the NATO side. Everyone has picked sides, folks. But you see, Europe made a big mistake. Europe made a big, big mistake by saying that, they don't, it's all a big mistake to expand NATO even more, to militarize Europe even more. Who's going to pay for this, by the way? To militarize Europe even more, even though the mistake is they rely on Russian energy. And so that's likely going to be cut off. They want to scale it back. Since when does Russia or any other country have to slowly scale things down so Europe can be more independent, safer, smoother, more comfortably? Well, I'm expecting a total cutoff at some point in the next 6 months, which will mean drastic energy increases in cost and shortages throughout Europe. And here in the US, we will not be immune from the costs and our own problems. And to top everything off, folks, while Russia on this side is saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, right? NATO is going to, it says, drastically increase its high readiness forces by 650%. Hell, why not say 600%? Why not 1,000%? What is 650%? Where did they pull that number out of? Never mind, it's Pride Month, right? Pulling that number out their sphincter. But they're going to increase their readiness. For what? What are they getting ready for? Right? Now, how? I asked, how are they going to increase their readiness? By asking the US government to pay for it all? Europe is in even worse financial, economic, and monetary shape than the United States of America via the US government's ridiculous policies and the Federal Reserve's screwing up things. So the US government going to pay for it all? Or is Europe going to step up and pay for this military armament? Right? What, is the US government going to send in the Marines and the Army to fight Russia? Are they going to provide lipstick and high heels to combat troops from the Pentagon? Is that their new program? Make sure everyone uses the right pronouns as they address the Russians. Folks, Putin and Xi Jinping know the U.S. will to fight doesn't exist because both China and Russia have nuclear deterrence. They also have, a lot of people believe, blackmail photos and bank statements and other documents on Brandon, on Hunter, and on all the European Union and US DC politicians. They're all dirty. If you think they didn't go in and get banking documents and other material inside Ukraine on these people, then you're mistaken. See, the Ukraine was being used as quite a vehicle for Western oligarchs to enrich themselves and hide their wealth. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Why do you think they're so insistent on fighting Putin? Over a couple of cities? Over a couple of factories? Or is it a lot more? Right? Prove me wrong, right? Let's see some real action, Biden. I don't think so. And nor do I really want to see any kinetic or bombs and bullets flying between Russia and Western forces. But I do know, folks, that the Cold War is here. That means our lives are going to be made even more difficult. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and your own means of self-defense, along with your plan, is what's necessary. Chance favors the prepared mind. Aren't you glad you are a prepper? Thank you for joining me here. Share this video, internet address up there. Thank you for coming to Subscribestar, to guerrilla fund our efforts to get the truth out. Because folks, big tech and social media, they're going to continue to come after us even harder in the future. And if you want facts, opinion, and maybe a little humor, this is the place to come. Help others wake up, help others join us in the fight for liberty, freedom, freedom of speech, and our nation a constitutional republic. God bless America. Semper Fi.